All right. Well, good afternoon or good evening. Josh Waldo, Fire Chief from Bozeman, member of the Montana State Fire Chiefs Association Board of Directors. Happy to be with you tonight to introduce a great instructor and really just a great friend of mine, Aaron Zamzow. Most people call him Zam. Aaron's got over 20 years of firefighting experience as an on-call paid firefighter in Golden Valley, Minnesota, and is currently a career firefighter EMT and training officer in Madison, Wisconsin. He's the owner of Fire Rescue Fitness, a company that creates workout programs and fitness resources that focus on getting fire rescue athletes fit for duty. Aaron holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Health and Wellness, is an NSCA certified strength and conditioning specialist, a NASM certified personal trainer, and precision nutrition practitioner, and an ACE Pure Fitness trainer. He's also worked in the fitness industry for over 30 years and has experience working with the general population as well as athletes from the NBA, the NFL, and the NHL. He's the author of numerous fitness programs catered towards fire rescue athletes. He has recently began publishing and writes for Firehouse, Fire Rescue Magazine, Lexapol, Fire Rescue One, International Firefighter, and numerous other first responder publications. In 2022, Aaron launched the Better Every Shift podcast with Fire Rescue One, where he and guests discuss pertinent fire service topics. Aaron also uses his experience and knowledge to consult with fire departments on the best practices for firefighter fitness and health, and serves as the Fitness and Nutrition Committee Chair for the First Responder Center for Excellence and the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Aaron's enthusiasm to help members of the fire service and knowledge is contagious. His presentations and programs have sparked thousands of firefighters, EMTs, chiefs, and medics to improve their level of health and promote a healthier and more fit fire service. Aaron, thanks for joining us tonight. Always a pleasure. Can't wait to hear some knowledge from you. And Zam, take it away, my friend.
Thanks, Chief. Good to see you. Appreciate the introduction. I guess with that bio, it's no question why I'm busy, I guess. I'm real fortunate to and appreciative that you guys, that everybody's here. I know it's a little later, so hopefully will not disappoint. I've been actually very fortunate again to be in some rooms with some very, very smart people like Chief Waldo there and other fire service leaders. Been able to interview them this last couple of years. And a lot of what I've talked about with them and developed through training with athletes and training myself and talking with other service leaders, it's kind of a culmination of what we'll talk about tonight, which is the Healthy 10. And it's really about application to all the different stuff that we're hearing about, the health issues we face. We are kind of at a time where data and research has really come to the forefront in the fire service. And in some cases, I think it's just inundating us with all this different stuff that we're dealing with. And we all know that because we're experiencing it, and it can lead to frustration. It can lead to a lot of questions as far as like, where do we begin? Where do we even focus? What can we do? And so I came up with this list called the Healthy 10. And the last 3 years have been really vetting it to a lot of researchers, vetting it to a lot of leaders. And we'll talk about it, and hopefully it will give you a little clarity and some goals, some habits, and some actionable items that you can just take from this hour-long kind of discussion as we go through it. I highly encourage questions. I know a lot of this stuff may not seem like it might be pertinent to you, or if you don't feel it's pertinent to you, ask away. Chief Waldo is going to be monitoring those, and I highly encourage them, because my goal whenever I present or wherever I go is I want to give you just one thing that as I call a plus one. It's a plus one actionable item that if you do consistently will really transfer to better health, better productivity, being a just better person. So that's really what we're all about. So we'll dig into this a little bit. Chief kind of gave you a bio about all the different things I've done. I'll just tell you a quick story. I think that's kind of pertinent to how I started really in the fitness industry and how I started with working in the fire service. I was a trainer. I had my own company. I was training pro athletes. I was up in Minneapolis, and things were going really well. there was a on-call paid department, Golden Valley Fire Department, right across the kind of kitty corner from my house. And I thought it was a great way to get involved in the community. I love the active physical side of it. So I joined the fire service. I did, firefighter 1 and firefighter 2 in the evenings. And I realized that I sucked at it. I wasn't very good. I'm not a very good, talented firefighter. I'm not naturally that good of an athlete. I'm not a naturally gifted firefighter. And I think we'd all agree that there's some people on this job that you work with that, man, they get it. Like they can just get it. They can move really, really well. It just seems to come easy. I look like a puppy trying to mate with a football. I mean, it's not very pleasant. So I was going through my first academy, and guys were beating me up ladders. They were able to carry stuff better than I was, and these were contractors and laborers that did this all day long. And I thought, hey, I'm a fitness guy. I'm doing a tricep push down, and I'm doing a leg press. I should be, competing or beating these guys. And they go back and smoke a cigarette, which was really deflating for me. So I really just started to think about, all right, if I was, looking at the fire ground as a playing field and I had an athlete out there, how would I train them? And I started to devise programs mainly for myself because, as I said, I'm not very talented, and I had to work really hard at my fitness. And over the last 20 some years now, I got hired full time. I'm now a lieutenant with Madison Fire Department, and I started writing. And from there, it just kind of took off. And the idea behind what Fire Rescue Fitness was started from obviously was a necessity, but we have to look at our health. We have to look at our fitness in the dimensions of an athlete. Like we're paid to perform when we need to. And unfortunately, we don't have any off season. When I would work with my NBA and NFL guys, it was pretty easy. They had 12 weeks of prep work, and then we had them in camp, and then they had, through the season, and then after season, we'd do a little recovery. And, contract years, they would come up, we would work a little bit differently on things, and it was really easy. Unfortunately, we don't just take calls from Mr. and Mrs. Smith in, January, February, March and train the other, months of the year. So we have to be ready. And that's kind of what the basis of my education was. I started to apply a lot of the different things that I had learned over the years now to the fire service. And then when I got hired full time, it's just two passions met. And here I am today. So I, again, thank you guys. Thank you everybody for being here and for the opportunity. I have a little gift for you all. If you go to www.firerescuefitness.com/seminar, you'll see on there all these slides. So if I skip over something, you can follow along on your own. It's a PDF download. There is also a link for a 28-day workout program with some eating guidelines and some recipes. I do have a new program, a 50-day program that's we'll talk about as we kind of venture into this Healthy 10 concept. But for you guys, just remember that website, and I think Kim will maybe send that link out or at least put it in the chat. So again, thanks for being here. Hopefully we'll give you something to take from this. I do have to say too, I've been able to host this podcast called Better Every Shift. If you haven't heard it, please take a listen. We talk a lot about not only the application of the health and wellness, but really about leadership and just self-improvement there as well. So I'm having a blast. I get to talk to so many cool people like your own Chief Waldo there. And, like I said, I just feel very fortunate to be able to do this. I was going to say show of hands in the chat. Maybe Chief, you can help me with this. So we have mainly chiefs on board here. Are we firefighters? Are we pure fitness trainers? Is it a gamut? I always try to do a little survey, if you could say maybe what your role is, something that you'd like to get from this seminar. I'll try to address those as we go. What we're talking about here, to be honest, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're a chief, doesn't matter if you're a firefighter, doesn't matter if you are even, a civilian significant other. The application of a lot of this stuff is going to help you improve your health regardless. It's catered more towards firefighters, but everybody will benefit from it regardless of position. I'm going to tell you this right away. So everybody breathe easy. I've been a been doing fitness presentations in the fire service for about 20 years. And whenever I walk into a room, people kind of get this like, oh God, is he going to tell me I got to eat quinoa? Is he going to tell me that I got to, not eat sugar? I tell you right away, I crush tequila and ice cream sometimes. I hate burpees. I don't like bench pressing, and protein shakes are just as hilarious to me as they are to you guys. So breathe easy. We're not going to talk about stuff that is really unapplicable for most of us. We're going to talk about what we need to do on a daily basis, weekly basis, yearly basis to improve our health. So, I have the same challenges as you, even though I talk about fitness, it doesn't mean I necessarily like to do it all the time. But I do everything in moderation. So the main point of this slide is hopefully to get you laughing a little bit, but to understand, like I like to live life, and I think we all should. And there is a key to integrating in health when you need to, and a little bit of fun. So got that off.
Yeah.
Everybody just is smiling, breathing easy.
Yeah, and Sam, as you transition there, bud, it looks like it's a pretty heavy crowd of line folks with a couple of Chiefs scattered in here tonight.
Okay, I'll try to keep the Chiefs jokes coming then. Thanks, buddy. Well, great, perfect. This will work out really, really well. I think one of the things that is kind of confusing in this day and age is really, how do you define what healthy firefighter is? Because, I mentioned earlier, when I was first getting started, you had some guys that were contractors. They didn't eat very well, but they did a lot of the fireground movements throughout the day, and they were really, really good at it. They smoked a little bit, so does that make them healthy because they can perform the job? There's so many different attributes to it. So I think it's really important to start with, all right, what are we really going for when we talk about healthy, when we talk about healthy 10? And what are those 10 concepts? How do we apply them? And then hopefully you all take one or two things that you could start, today and tomorrow to start to do that will improve your own health and motivate others around you to do the same thing. I'm going to take a quick moment just to talk a little bit about Chief Waldo. We really started to bond. We got together at Firehouse through some conferences, and he started to kind of tell kind of his story about health and wellness. And I think it's really important to share stories with people, because everybody's fitness journey is a little bit different. Mine was, I'm kind of like the Rudy of the fire service. I'm not very talented, but my fitness is going to keep up with you. And so first bottle, you'll probably beat me. And then the second bottle, you look behind you, and I'll be in front of you. So I have to work really, really hard. And Chief Waldo, I think you got a similar story, right? Like you were very, very good when you first started, and all of a sudden something happened, right? And
yeah, I got comfortable. That's what happened. I got I got a job on the fire truck, and that was awesome. And I was super excited about it. And I blinked, and I put on a lot of weight. And I went from one department to the next, and knew I had put on weight. And then I really put on some weight. And I went from starting in the fire service somewhere around 195 pounds to I blinked and I was at 280 pretty quick. And I remember being on a fire. We were on a mutual aid fire out in the county, and we were the department that everybody called, and so there was a little bit of pride involved there. And I just remember being in that building, thinking, I got to get out of here. I'm hot. I'm out of air. To the point of I was bleeding my own purge valve just to make my bell go off. So I had an excuse to leave, and that was kind of opening for me. And I knew I had another career change coming, because the place I was at was getting absorbed by the city department again. And so I started down the path of getting back to where I needed to be a good firefighter. And so it took a while. Didn't happen overnight, but I didn't get that big overnight either. So and it's still a challenge every day. Was at the gym this morning. Start my day there most times, so that's always a good way to start, and it keeps me motivated. But yeah, we all have our peaks and valleys, and no one's perfect. But I think if you can just kind of stay on a good incline, you're much better off in the long term.
Yeah. And, and you had that come to kind of Jesus moment. And thank you for sharing that, Chief. I appreciate it. I think, the main point of that is, you hear a guy who's talking about fitness. It's not easy for me. I have my little, quirks that I like to do, Chief Waldo. So if you're in that place right now, it's all right. I've mentioned before, we don't have a preseason, an off season, an on season. Every day is an on season, and your health is going to fluctuate through time, fluctuate through your career. But the whole point of this is we're going to give you steps to get back to where you want to be and where you should be. And it's really, it's not as hard. And I should be careful by saying that. The ideals are not hard. The application is hard. So let's dig in and talk about this healthy 10 concept and start giving you these applicable things to take from this. So I want to just briefly go through this. Again, you can get all these slides. I think we all know what we're facing in the fire service now. Cancer is going to be one of the #1 killers of firefighters. We have PTSD. We have heart disease, which has always been killing us. Now you add on top of that obesity, you add our sleep apnea, low testosterone, depression. All of these different health issues we're more susceptible to because of the stress of the job, sometimes our own environments, right? We know this now. I think everybody's been bombarded with the data that shows, hey, you guys, it kind of sucks to be firefighters these days because you're more prone to all these health issues. So we know this sucks. And it sometimes it just gets to be a little overwhelming because you're like, okay, I know this. So where do I go? What do I do? And you also hear this thing called resilience. And I think it's important to define what is resilience. And really what resilience is you take all of these different things that we're, more apt to do. Resilience is the way to combat all those. It's your behaviors, your thoughts, your actions that promote personal well-being and mental health. And some will even say in challenging and stressful times. I really think it's ability to withstand and adapt and recover from the stress of the job in a healthy way. Resilient from the standpoint of nutrition, resilience from fitness, resilience, all those things come into play with it. So when I say resilience, it's just basically dealing with all these different health issues and all the different stressors in a positive way that actually builds you up and makes you a more strong and adaptable person and firefighter. I talked about defining healthy, and I got a question for you. So you see the pictures here, and I give two examples of this. And maybe you guys work with people like this. So there's one firefighter, let's say they work out, 2 times per day. They're shredded, but they drink 3 monsters a day. When they go home, they're so wired up and stressed out that they need alcohol or some other substance to sleep. They don't watch their health from the standpoint of they don't get their annual medicals. They like to, think that they're better than smoke, so they like to, tear their mask off, early when they're doing overhaul. They don't wash their gear as much. And then you take someone who's maybe 20, 15 pounds overweight. They eat healthy most of the time. They try to work out, but maybe not as intense. And they have really healthy relationships, and they look after themselves from the standpoint of they're always wearing their SCBA, they're doing their cancer prevention stuff, and they get their annual medicals. On paper, one you put in the calendar, right? They're all shredded and they're fit, but who would you really want to have on your crew? Who's the one that's going to be more apt to deal with all the different challenges? Not only physically, but I think mentally. Who's the one that's going to be better off to help build camaraderie, to help work as a team? And I think it's the second one. It's the one that maybe doesn't look calendar ready, but when you dig deep into total health, they have a much better package. And I think we have to get out of this mindset that fitness, it's all about a look. It's not, especially with us, because we have all these hidden dangers. We have all these different things that we need to address. So when I talk about healthy, you don't have to picture, I don't even know what the dude on the bottom picture is. It's kind of a little scary, actually. But, just picture someone who's balanced, from a standpoint of, yeah, they might not look that shredded, but they understand where they are, they understand what they need to do, and they understand that health is just this confluence of factors that are working together. Does anybody kind of nod your head if we got people that are doing 3 monsters or whatever a day? I know I see them in our firehouses too. That's probably why the toilet water is blue all the time, or green in this case, maybe. I love Paul Combs. I think he has some really, really great messages, obviously. This one, of course, I think hits with all of us, but we all need to improve our health. I was just telling you about my journey. Chief Waldo was talking about his, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. You just don't know where to go. It's like you're supposed to eat, high carbs. You're supposed to eat low carbs. You're supposed to drink, ice water. You're supposed to drink water at room temperature. You're not supposed to eat this protein. You're not supposed to eat that. You're supposed to eat this. You're supposed to work out like that. You got to do the workout of the day. You got to do the Zumba of the day, whatever it is. All of a sudden, we're just bombarded with everything. Oh, and by the way, you're going to die of cancer on top of that, right? So there's a pressure to get fit, but there's a little bit of a lack of instruction and direction. And so we're going to give you that. But if you're frustrated, don't worry, you're not alone. We're going to try to clear all that up. This Healthy 10 model was just looking at all the research. And I'm a Forrest Gump kind of guy, meaning sometimes when you step back and just take a general approach to things, you really can dig deep and make more of an impact. I'll give you an example. Like, I always get a lot of questions about supplements, and my take on supplements is this. I see a lot of people in firehouses, they drink protein shakes, and then like you'll see them load up on 3 scoops of ice cream later on that day, and they don't eat their vegetables. And the problem with that and taking all these supplements is that if you don't have a solid nutritional base, it doesn't matter what supplements you take. Those supplements are just going to fall to the ground. When we talk about the Healthy 10, it's what are the foundational actions that we need to take every single year to make us healthy, to get us healthy. There are progressions up that pyramid, but what we're talking about is an overall approach to health. We already defined, hey, fit doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the calendar. Fit means that you're looking at all the different factors. And what this does is it improves us not only physically, but mentally. And then, which ultimately leads to better service. We're better partners. We're better significant others. And we have obviously better careers. And we're happier too. I'm a firm believer in that. So let's talk about, well, what the heck is this Healthy 10? What is he really talking about? He's rambling on, man. All right, I'm sold. Give me the brass tacks. It's first things first. You need to train functionally at least 3 times a week for your career, if not more. My personal take is I think you should dedicate 30 minutes every single day to improving your body, whether it's a workout. It could be just a long walk with a dog or with the family. It could be some simple stretches. It could be doing rehab exercises that you're supposed to do, but you don't because your knee's feeling better or your shoulder's okay, or your back's not so tight. It could be just going into a corner, taking some deep breathing exercises. It doesn't have to be a high intensity workout every single time, but dedicating that 30 minutes a day I believe is essential. Now, if you're like, hey man, I'm starting from square one, go for 3 to 4 times per week. But the other side of that is we want to do things from a fitness standpoint that help us do three things. Our fitness program should help us improve performance, reduce injuries, and prolong our career. And so I asked somebody, is bench pressing 650 pounds and putting your shoulders through that, doing that? I've read every Line of Duty death, and I've not read one where a 615-pound bench press is going to get you out of it. And, people argue, I like to do it because it makes me feel strong. I'm like, well, okay, then do more mobility stuff. Meet halfway. And just remember that when you go down into that workout room or to that workout room, you are basically should be working on one of those 3 things, if not all of them. And when we talk about functional, Mayo Clinic, I think, says it one of the best. They just say you're training the body for the activities we perform in daily life. So for us, there's wildland. I think you guys have quite a bit of wildland stuff. So you're walking with gear on. You're lifting, we're crawling, we're pulling, we're hoisting, we're carrying, we're twisting, we're slamming. Everything that we do involves core work, and it doesn't isolate. So when someone goes down and says, yeah, I'm doing back and biceps today, it's Tuesday. That's how, in my mind, that's how they talk. Sorry. I'm like, okay, but what did you do yesterday? And how does that transfer to better performance, tomorrow or even today? And I'm not knocking like separating muscle groups, but a lot of those individuals, and I've worked in health clubs for 30 years. I'll tell you what's today. Today is Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday's back and bicep day. Monday is chest and tri, back and bicep. Wednesday's legs, so that's the best day to go to the gym. Everybody skips it. Thursday is a little light cardio, maybe some abs. And then Friday is like happy hour workout. It's arms and abs day. Saturday is like a hangover workout or recovery. And I see the same stuff happen in firehouses. Today's bench day. Everybody's going to go bench. That's great. But if you're benching once a week or once a month, what are you doing the other 30 days? And so, when I talk about, think about your health, your fitness from the standpoint of that performance, right? You're trying to do the job better and more efficiently. So train 3 times a week, functional workouts. And I do 4-hour-long seminars on training functionally. The workout programs that I'll give that you have access to for free really do a great job of incorporating in functional movements. We start every workout with some mobility work. You add your core work, then you do your strength, and then you finish with we call it energy system development, or I call them overhauls, where you're just doing a little higher intensity and then a quick stretch. Workout should be efficient, should be quick. They don't need to be 3 hours long. 45 minutes, 50 minutes, if that. So number 1, train functionally at least 3 times a week. Number 2, and this is all the stuff I was talking about. 3 times per week, 30 to 45 minutes. The key here is to be consistent. I'm 50, so mobility is even a higher priority. You just find that you're a lot more sore, and it's the first thing that goes. Core should include movements like plank. If anybody's ever injured their shoulder, their back, or their knees, and you've done rehab stuff, what do? We do it until our shoulder, knee, or back feels better. Why? Incorporate that into the workout. A couple different exercises right when you start. Bridges, even some shoulder rotations, some balance work. Just get into the habit of doing that, because those are the biggest things that we go out of duty, onto the 44. Cardiovascular exercise, at some point we need to incorporate intervals, high intensity. If you're just starting off, don't worry about it. Just get into the habit of doing some more movement and activity. So we got to work out. The other thing, and it's one of the easiest things to do, everybody, when you walk away from the camera, you probably know 2 things. 1, I'm a little nuts, maybe have some funny stories, a little crazy, but you also will understand that hydration is significantly important for reducing your chances of sudden cardiac arrest, stroke. It actually can decrease inflammation in the body, which then can lead to, a decrease in the chances of cancers, as a matter of fact. The idea behind hydration is this. When you're dehydrated, your blood is thicker. And so your heart has to work harder to pump that blood through. When you're better hydrated, your blood's a little thinner. Your heart doesn't work as hard to circulate that blood. A lot of firefighters, and I think Dr. Sarajanki did a research study on this. They found out, I think it's 2019, that something like 67% of firefighters are reporting to work dehydrated. So one of the best things to do, first thing in the morning, have a glass of 10 to 12 ounces of water. It will improve cognitive function. So if you're a chief and you're thinking, well, 13 cups of coffee is going to do it for me, you need to hydrate as well, because you're the one who's going to be talking and giving commands out there, and you need a clear head. So hydrate. How much? This might sound like a lot. Aim to drink half your body weight in ounces. Start with 60, 70 if you're not doing any. And, are energy drinks good? No. Beer has water in it. Yeah, but it's not not the same. Coffee, yeah, but I don't count it as a water. Some of the fizzies, if that gets you started in drinking more water and helping with hydration, that's fine. But eventually you want to just limit the energy drinks, the sodas, and the alcohol. And again, I'm not saying totally cut them, but manage them so they're not a part of your normal lifestyle. You start to get, into the habit of staying hydrated, you can actually feel when you're not really well hydrated. You can add some fruits. There are some hydration drinks out there, I think like Drip Drop and Elements, which, if that helps with taste, go for it. I carry a bottle on the truck. First thing in the morning, believe it or not, you really start to feel the difference. Just 10 ounces of water right away. Just kind of gets your metabolism going and gets you started. So hydrate. It's really easy, right? Everybody nod your head. You could do that. You could do that right now with water. And if you remember to do it consistently, you will definitely feel a difference in your joints, and you also feel a difference in your energy levels, because water is used in every metabolic process in our body. So right now, you already got your formula started. You're going to get, you got higher instances of cancer, you got higher instances of sudden cardiac arrest, heart disease. It's really easy to gain weight as you progress into your career. So two tools that you have is just consistent workouts and hydrate. Two things that are not too bad so far, right? Everybody with me?
And
Here's
Dan,
another one.
before we
Yeah.
go, there's a question here about the sparkling water. So the bubblies, LaCroix. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a great start. You want to basically hydrate mainly with just regular water. There's different research that says that sparkling water can wind up dehydrating you more, and I don't know if you can read into it a lot. But if you're not drinking a lot of water right now, let's say you're drinking 3 or 4 sodas a day, and you're going to go to those, make that that's a good step. But eventually, maybe have 1 or 2 of them, and then you're doing, 60 to 70 ounces is just straight on water. That's great. That's a great improvement. And, Chief, and that question just kind of spurs, another statement that, look, we talked about this spectrum almost, right? Chief, you were in this spectrum. You got hired, you were here, you're really, really in shape, and then you got a little complacent, and your health got away from you. Well, now you're back to where you should be. And if you're at, a place where I let it get out of hand, and, think about what's one thing you can do. What's your +1? So if your +1 is to say, I'm going to stop drinking all those Diet Cokes and I'm going to drink a sparkling water instead, that's an improvement. Let's start with that. And then start moving to, okay, now I'm doing the sparkling waters. I'm going to do another +1. I'm going to convert half of that to regular water and throw some lemons or limes in there. And before you know it, just keep improving a little bit every single day. And eventually you'll get to that place where you want to be. So I hope that answers that question, huh? Good? To help? Awesome. Good. I appreciate it. That's a good question. Yes. Look, I'm not hiding anything. Yeah, those are great mixers for vodka too, with a little bit of lime and lemon in there. I know. Every once in a while, it's okay to do that, right? Yeah, really focus on hydrating and eventually get all those diet sodas out of you. I'll tell you, I had someone who worked with me on Fire Rescue Fitness. He lost about 250 pounds. And one of the first things that he did was he stopped drinking sodas. And he's like, I went to, he was drinking like a liter of Mountain Dew every single day. And he went to diet first. He went to the sparkling waters, and then he just went to a Gatorade after workouts and then water the rest of the day. And he lost a lot of weight because of that. So just remember, this is a progression. So you got to hydrate, you got to work out. Annual medicals, folks. It doesn't matter what age you are. Every fire department should be working to try to get annual medicals, either paid, if you're on a on-call paid or a volunteer department. Find a way to get your numbers every single year. I use Chief Billy Goldfeder as a prime example of this. His numbers he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and his numbers were within the normal range. But the reason they did further testing is because he had all these prior data points and all these prior annual medicals that he did. And so they noticed the trend. And if he would have been doing it once every 5 years, they would have never pursued it any further because he was still in that normal range for his PSA. So whether you're 25, whether you're 30, whether you're 45, if you haven't gotten your annual medical, go get it. There is links from F-Star. There's links to, if you Google like firefighter physical templates or letter to physician, FRCE has a great kind of 2-pager that you can give to your physician if it's your own physician. If you're a chief or someone that's a health and wellness kind of coordinator and you want to start using that as a reference as far as what we need to get, it follows what the NFPA guidelines are, but it really draws it out into a more usable format, something that we can understand. Again, it's not, you may not show any signs and symptoms of things that come up, but it's that trend that we're looking for. And I believe too, if you're in this place where you're like, man, I let my health go, don't be afraid of that annual medical, because those issues aren't going to go away if you don't do anything about it. So we have to face them, and it's not as bad as you think in most cases. The other thing is that it's a motivating factor. I think, when your doctor looks at you and says, if you don't start working out, you're going to be put on meds and you're 35, or we have to make sure that we're monitoring this. So go get your annual medical. If not for you, your family and your crew members, because if they find something, you can fix it. It's a great, there it is. There's the annual medical. It's like a guideline. You can give that to physician, and you can then obviously take that in and read it just for your own kind of benefit and guide to know what you should be looking for. Every year you should get it. Does not matter what age. The kind of rule of thumb is to do it every year on your birthday month. And if your doctor has no idea why, that's where you give them that letter. And you may have to do some educating with your own physician, saying, hey, I am more susceptible to prostate cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, or instances of almost all cancers are 9% higher, if not more, depending upon what cancer it is. It's imperative that we do lung functioning every year, x-rays every 3 years. And there are your websites, firstrespondercenter.org, ifcsafety.org, 40plusfire.com, all have that on it. Chief, do you know of any other ones? I think NVFC has one as well as a guide.
Yeah, nothing else that pops out for me. The First Responder Center is the one that I routinely go to. It's been super helpful for us.
Okay. And we'll try to maybe get a link or something in there on it. I know the IFC one is really good as well. We worked in congruency or congression, and you can see like those all those organizations were part of that project. Get your annual medicals. The next thing, let's talk nutrition. I'm going to simplify nutrition for you. Food is your fuel. Put bad diesel fuel in the engine or truck, it doesn't run very well. We had an electric engine. I could insert all kinds of jokes here, but yeah, your fuel is just like your gas for your engine or your truck. We don't necessarily think about that. I think we think about food sometimes as a kind of go-to to help us kind of deal with the stress. But hopefully we can get you to think twice before you do that. Here's why. Sugars, simple carbohydrates, processed foods aren't very good for you, right? They're very tasty, and alcohol you could throw in this as well. They can actually cause more harm than good. They can cause inflammatory responses in your body, to which we already are inflamed due to what we're exposed to with the stress, the lack of sleep, and all the different contaminants. So now I'm ingesting some poor nutritional foods and making some poor nutritional choices. That just compounds that inflammation, which then can lead to the rapid weight gain, insulin resistance, and believe it or not, mood imbalance and PTSD and mental health issues. So the biggest thing that I want you to take for this number 4 is that what we eat does affect everything, not just our stomachs. It affects how we think, it affects how we act, and it affects how we move. Couple of really easy guidelines for you. I heard this one the other day. If your grandmother didn't eat it, you shouldn't either. Meaning a lot of these, modified foods, grandma didn't eat. So they ate fruits, they ate vegetables, they grew it on a farm. Try to stick to real foods as much as possible. Limit sugars, preservatives. Now, in every case, it's not, sometimes you're on the run, you got to do something. You got to have something. When you do, just look for the added sugars. I'll give you the best example I can give is tomorrow or the next day you go back to the firehouse. Some of you are in there right now. You can throw in the chat. Look at the yogurts that are in the refrigerator. Greek yogurt, in a lot of cases, has 14 grams of added sugar. Everyone should aim to have about 35 grams or less every single day of added sugar. If you have one serving of Greek yogurt, you're halfway there. And you're thinking that you're eating healthy, so of course you're going to have 2 servings. All of a sudden, that's 28 grams of sugar, usually 20 grams of protein, and probably 12 grams of fat. But it creeps up on you. Sugar is also in ketchup. Most ketchups have about 5 grams of added sugar in it. Not saying don't put ketchup on, just understand, okay, maybe I won't take as much. Or there are some alternatives out there. There's now some vegetable ketchups that actually aren't too bad, for you. So mom was really right though. Stick to fruits and vegetables. Good leafy greens, fruits, great. Look at your sugar content of your yogurts. Look at your sugar content of your, condiments. And, try to just start reading more labels. I steal this one from a good friend of mine in Washington. He talks about trying to eat more salads, EMS. So that's really your +1. If out of all of this, what's one thing you can do tomorrow? You can start eating more salads. And now another thing that I put in here is another bonus is I'm sure if people have heard about it now, intermittent fasting, or they call it time restricted feeding. It's just basically having times where your body where you don't eat anything, and it helps your body recover from a standpoint of it doesn't have to work on digesting food. One of the members that I've worked with sent me a message. They're like, hey, the time restricted feeding helps me mentally basically shut my brain down from eating. And I was like, well, elaborate on that. He said basically at 8 o'clock at night, if I'm in the firehouse, I don't walk through the kitchen. I just know I'm not going to eat anything. And I'm not going to eat until tomorrow, the next day at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now you can have coffees, teas. You don't want to load them up with creams and sugars, but you wake up in the morning, you have your cup of coffee, remember your glass of water, because number 2 was hydrate. So you have your glass of water, and then you get home, and then you'll have your breakfast at 8 o'clock. And he just said mentally, he goes, I just know. He's like, I'm not hungry. I don't eat out of habit. And so he stays out of the kitchen, and it's helped him drop like 15 pounds and get back to where he wanted to be. So now what he'll do is he'll do a time restricted feeding on days where, let's say they went out to eat and he ate probably a little bit more than he wanted to. Well, then he'll fast for 12 hours or 16 hours. Skip breakfast and then just have lunch the next day. I personally do this all the time. A question always comes up about, well, what if you get that call? What if you get that call, that fire call? Come home and then you have to refuel. So you just don't do it that day. The next day you might be able to. You can read more about it. You can just do time restricted feeding. I'll give you some more info on that too as we get going. So far so good, right? We know we need to do what? Work out consistently 3, if not more times per week. Hydrate. We need to get our annual medicals, and we need to eat real food. Leafy greens, fruits, and vegetables. So number 5. I get a big sigh, more about sleep. Look, sleeping is a skill. We think that we're all good at it. We're not. A lot of us in the fire service have sleep apnea. A lot of us in the fire service have really difficult time getting to sleep. There are some things that we need to do. And I know you can't control the calls at night, So the best thing is to basically understand, sleep is a skill that needs a proper environment. A lack of sleep, and I don't want to bore you too much with all the different research that's coming out, but I guarantee you're going to hear a lot more about it in the next 2 to 3 years. It basically, a lack of sleep is pointing to every single issue that we face. But it can also be linked to accidents and errors. So chiefs that are listening, if you want to reduce your instances of automobile or engine or accidents, start to focus more on sleep any way you can. I'm a big believer, and I know Chief Waldo and I talked about the 4 shift. In some departments, it can work. In some departments, they're not set up for that yet. I know in my department, we have a furlough, so we have the people and the personnel. So I'm really pushing for us to try that. It just gives you a little more rest in between shifts. Here's your real application of this. Try to get 7 hours, 8 hours every night. Now, it's not mandatory. You can still get 6 hours and still feel refreshed. Try to aim for that 7 hours. Take naps when you can, not more than 60 to 90 minutes, though. When you start to get into that 90-minute, you start into a different sleep cycle, and it can actually make you feel groggy. Create a dojo, a peaceful space, cool, dark, and quiet. That's it. I'm going to fire my dog. She's the one who's supposed to proof these. The other one that's really big, I've had a lot of people email me and say, hey, I just shut my screens down. I don't watch TV. I'll do this thing called reading. I don't know if you guys know there's books out there other than on cell phones. Some of them are pretty boring, and they really help you go to sleep. So shut down 30 to 60 minutes before you go to bed. Read a story, read a book, and create your routine at night. Now, if you're on call paid, that pager goes off. I get it. If you're on shift and that pager goes off or those tones go off, I get it. But when you come back, stay off your phone, kind of recreate that space, and try to ease your way back into sleep. It's a process. So is there one thing that you can take from this that's going to help you sleep better? For me, the biggest thing was limiting screen time. 9:30, 10 o'clock, I shut everything down. Try to do this thing called reading. I'm not very good at it yet, but it's helping. Number 6, and I know we're starting to get close to, I want to be able to give you the application part a little bit better and answer questions, so I might speed through a little bit. But the biggest thing with managing your weight and your body fat, there's a lot of different things that manage and can measure body fat at this point. There are, hip waist ratio. There are some great technology-based things that will give you a body composition. The main thing with weight is that you don't need to necessarily say where you fit in the spectrum of everyone else. But let's say in case like Chief Waldo knows, he got into the fire service, he was 190. And all of a sudden, 3 years later, he's at 210. Look, muscle does weigh more than fat, but I'll tell you what, I guarantee it, that's not what he put on, was 30 pounds of muscle. And our mentality is just that, especially if we were an athlete before, well, muscle weighs more than fat. No, you're just getting fat. So you got to be honest with yourself about your weight. That's where body composition doesn't lie. You can do your body comp and you can look and go, okay, 27%. I need to start doing something. I know BMI, people don't like BMI because they're like, hey, I'm big bone. I get it. So don't use BMI. Use body composition. Use body fat. Use it, though, as a measure. So it's basically a warning sign for you. When you get in, from the academy, you're typically in really good shape. So if your waist is a 34 and you weigh 190, that's where you want to try to stay through your career. And if all of a sudden you get to 200, 210, as Chief Waldo said, and I've been there too, COVID, for some reason, gravity weighed heavier and the tequila tasted a little better and food tasted better and we weren't as active, but it can get away from you quickly. And just by managing your weight and understanding your weight and your body comp, you don't have to do it every single week. You don't even have to do it every month. I would encourage to do every 3 to 6 months and use it as a motivator. There is a link, and again, you can get all these slides if you go to firerescuefitness.com/seminar. You click on this link, and it'll help you determine what your body fat is, and it's a great, just kind of a placemat for where you are. So know your weight, know your body weight. Now let's talk about cancer a little bit, because we're inundated with all of the different, research studies. And, we could talk about PFAS in our gear, but I was just at a seminar where a researcher just looked around the room and said, look, yeah, there could be PFAS in your gear, but there are so many controlled things that we can control that we're not doing. Before we even think about PFAS affecting us, think about not chewing tobacco. Think about washing your gear. Think about wearing your SCBA. Think about managing your weight and managing your health. Now, if you're doing all those things, then you can start worrying about PFAS. But until then, focus on some of the things you can control. What's that one thing you can do to make you a better fire athlete, to reduce your chances of cancer? We all know clean gear. We all know it. So clean your gear. Post-fire twice a year. Do on-scene decon. Now, if your chiefs aren't doing it and signing it with your crew, do what you can, and then make sure that when you get back, you're doing all the preventative things to wash your gear. Hood, gloves, boots every 6 months, and after every fire incident. Shower after, every fire call, not every EMS call. Some EMS calls we have to, but there is a great gear washing guide from the NFPA on that. I think the biggest thing of this is clean gear, clean helmet. There's no excuse for it. Number 8, build emotional resilience. And this is one that we could really dig into. I think the biggest thing to take from this is that we've become a society where we don't connect. And I just did a podcast with Stephanie White, who's an advocate for mental health for the fire service. And we just talked about, doing this thing just every once in a while, put your phone down and try to have a real conversation with your crew. Talk about some experiences. I did a webinar with Fire Rescue One where we gave some, it's very similar to put me through a counseling session. So if you ever have trepidation and you don't want to do counseling and you think it's, someone sitting on the couch, go back to that webinar. You can just Google it, Fire Rescue One, mental health myths. And its therapy is very, very wonderful. I've done it numerous times, and I'm so glad I did, because you learn a lot about yourself. It helps build that resilience that we were talking about. And connecting with people also helps build your emotional resilience, and it makes you just a better person. If you hopefully have EAPs, I encourage you to call them and just find out what they offer. I called my EAP and I had no idea what they offered. Our EAP does 4 counseling sessions per family member per incident. They also do legal. They have legal counsel that they can help you with. They have financial counseling they can help you with. I was floored, and I'm so glad I talked to them about what services are offered. Now, we're very fortunate, but I think there's a lot of services we don't utilize. So look into your EAP program, look towards your state to see if they have a peer support network, connect with people. I think we really need to get back to, at least a couple minutes a day. If you're there with your crew in the firehouse, I challenge you to do the old cell phone down for 10 minutes, TV off, and just talk. You'd be surprised at what happens. It's awesome. See a counselor. I believe everybody should see a counselor every year. I've done it for the last 10 years. I think it should be mandatory in the fire service. I know some people are like, I don't need to see a counselor. How do you know? You've never been. If you want to sit there and not talk to them, great, but I believe it should be offered. That, along with all the other things we talked about, nutrition, hydration, sleep, all this can help with mental health. All of this helps you manage relationships. It's crazy now that, people that go into rehab for alcohol and drug, they do? They do exercise every morning. They start teaching them how to eat better, eat healthy, cook for themselves, and they focus on their sleep, because all of those things play into mental health a lot more than we even, I think, understand. There is a free course on stress first aid from FRCE. You can actually send someone to do it, I believe, for free and become a train-the-trainer. If you have a peer support team, I would highly recommend them doing this and then, trying to share that on with the rest of your department. So we talked about emotional resilience, building some emotional intelligence, just understanding, sometimes how calls make you feel, understanding how mental health plays into, our roles as parents, our roles as first responders, our roles with our crews, how nutrition plays into that, how fitness plays into that. Cancer, we talked about washing your gear. The other thing for cancer is wear your SCBA. I know sometimes it sucks. Like here, it's snowing here, and put my SCBA on, my mask is gonna just fog right up. I get it, but breathing this stuff in, it does not take more than 1 or 2 gulps in some cases. You can be unconscious, and you can have lasting effects on your lungs. IEFF just came out with a new updated policy where they're not even saying measure HCN and CO. If you're doing overhaul, you're in the building after a fire, you should be on air. I love that policy. I think it's one too that, look, use it as a means to be as a workout. If you're already on air, might as well stay on air as you're going through that overhaul. And I think that's a culture change, and that's a culture shift. For chiefs that are on here, you really should be assigning an incident scene safety chief that should be going around and pulling crews if they're not wearing their gear and their mask as they're doing overhaul. So that's just my take on it. Be the example for that. Once my mask is on, I pretty much keep it on. And here's the last one. All right, number 10. We talked about +1s, right? What can you do every single day to get a little healthier? That doesn't necessarily just mean health from a physical side. It can be health from the mental side, and it also could be self-improvement. You can't lose 25 pounds in 1 week. It sometimes takes 5 years. So don't be too hard on yourself. If you mess up a day, it's all right. Don't make it 15 years worth of days. Get back on it the next day. Try to do something to improve. Constant improvement, a little bit every single day, really, really makes a huge impact. The other part of this is gratitude. I call it the Jedi mind trick. If you have any kids at home and they're whining, they're complaining, if you just tell them, hey, what's one thing you like? Oh, I like ice cream. And before you know it, their mindset changes. Firefighters no different. If you start the day with a glass of water and a little like, I get to go ride a fire engine today, you'll be really surprised how that changes your whole outlook. And same thing, you get to that kitchen table and people start doing the swirlies down, either get out of that environment or just start talking about something positive. And it really is contagious. Work to improve your health, work to improve your fitness, work to improve your knowledge. I try to do 10 minutes a day of reading and, create a plan for yourself. If you're in this complacent spot, you need to at least start taking more trainings. I'm going to the National Fire Academy for the first time, like a little kid in a candy store. That's free. Just 2 days is all I'm getting to go, but it's really gives me something to look forward to. So stay positive. Here's the application of the Healthy 10. You'll have this list, and I know we got just a couple more minutes, and if people have questions, please ask any question you have. I want to talk about the daily side of this. So if you look at your year, and if I'm a chief, I would say, hey, this is what I want everybody to do every single year. So if you did 150 workouts a year, if you hydrated every single day, you wash your gear twice a year and after every call, like you can measure these things on the year. When you break it down to what are the habits we need to do every single day, I came up with this concept called the Resilient 50 last year at a seminar. And it's really breaking down when I work with athletes, when I work with firefighters, what made them successful. And it wasn't the fact that they had an 8-week program. It wasn't the fact that they were following some new diet plan. It was the fact that they took every single day and they made it a means to an opportunity to improve their health. And they just created a checklist. So what happened with the Resilient 50? I turned 50 this year. That's why it turned into 50. January 1st, I started doing 7 of these things. 30 minutes of exercise, 8,500 steps a day. I got 80 ounces of water. I just followed a diet plan. You can follow any diet plan. I didn't drink for 50 days. I did 10 minutes of reading. I actually finished 3 or 4 books. I'm actually going back to my master's too, so I've been doing that. Every once in a while, I just take a minute to do some deep breathing, like a box breath for 2 or 3 minutes. I didn't do the gratitude. I did time restricted feeding every single day. And over the course of 50 days, I think I lost about 6 pounds, but I gained some muscle and I lost body fat. But I'll tell you what, my energy levels were great. And I have a challenge for you. If you want to accept this challenge, you do 7 of these things for 50 days. I got a coin for you. You can send in and this is all for free, folks, just for having me on. And we're trying to make, my goal is just, why give it away? Because I think it can help so many people. I've gotten quite a few emails, and one night I was just in here, I was a little overwhelmed. The guy stopped drinking. And he said his crew challenged him this 50-day thing. He hasn't had a drink. He hasn't had a drink in 50 days. And he said, I just don't miss it now. I've had another person, she lost 24 pounds in these 50 days. It's just, when you break it down into daily habits, your health will improve. And of course, there's going to be days where you don't, but get back on it. So with that, I know I just about the end here. You can, by the way, it's free. If you go to resilient50.com, there's probably another one here, Fire Rescue Fitness /Resilient50. You just sign up, you get a free workout, you get eating guidelines, you kind of get a workbook that takes you through the steps. If you're thinking, man, 7 of these habits, man, I'm never going to be able to do it. That's all right. So start with 3 of them and pick like 20 days. Challenge someone else in your crew. All right, $20, 20 days. Who can have these 5? Who could stick with these 5 habits? Because that's what gets you results in the long term. And that's why we're here, is to talk about, how we can help you today. And then when I come back 3 years from now, you're like, what's next, man? What else you got? So with that, thank you guys. You really are your only limit, and you're really here to make an impact in your own lives, because you're doing this on your own time. I really believe, use that healthy 10 as a guideline for the department, and then that resilient 50 or 25, whatever, sticking to those habits can really make a difference in your own health. And I can't thank you guys enough for allowing me to present to you. And I hope I helped a little bit, clarified some things, and at least gave you a path to better health. If we got questions, I'll stay till midnight, man. If we got enough, whatever I can do to help you guys out. You can get the seminar slides there. You could go to Resilient 50 and get entered in the challenge. Again, there's no cost to any of this stuff. So appreciate you. Thanks for having me, Chief.
Yeah, Zam, thanks, buddy. It's always a pleasure. Folks, if you got questions, drop them in the chat there. I see a lot of gratitude and thanks for your time and your efforts tonight, Zam. But yeah, folks, this isn't a classroom. No one's throwing us out. We don't have another session after it. So if you got questions, throw them out there, and let's let Zam give us some more information here.
And if I don't know, I don't know. And if you got stuff that you think I should look into, please let me, feed me some stuff. I've been, like I said, I've been very fortunate to do this. I've had some friends that were pro athletes, and it really helped open and expand my eyes into making the fireground, playing field. And, over the years, I've seen a lot of different trends, but it comes back to just this consistency, that really, really helps. Chief, like you would agree 100%, right? Like, how did you gain 30? Well, you gained 85 pounds. You basically didn't do any of those habits. You did the exact opposite of those habits. Yeah, so, right? My Forrest Gump brain says, all right, if you don't follow a diet, you don't stay active, and you don't work out, you gain weight. Well, what if I do those 3 things? Then it'll go the opposite way. And lo and behold, it does, And if anybody's got an own personal challenge, if they want to share it, let's try to at least give you a game plan, Anybody?
No questions yet, buddy. Just a lot of thank you for your times in the chat there.
That's even good too. Yeah. I just did a couple extra slides in case people had them. We talked about the spectrum of fitness. Of course, everybody goes from a sedentary to an active style. You're unhealthy or healthy. And diet, our diets kind of fluctuate sometimes day to day, but this stuff works. It really improves every single aspect of your life. I used to just be the fitness guy, but I do believe there's more to it. Sleep is really big. Self-gratitude is really big. And then just, the hydration thing is something that's easy. It takes a little bit of effort just by having a bottle, but for chiefs, right? Like when you got to a chief position, you sit behind a desk a lot more than you ever did before, right? Where the 8,500 steps comes in is for those chiefs, because you don't realize how inactive you are until you start measuring it. And I had a couple chiefs go, "Oh, I think I get 8,500 steps." And I got an email back to like, "Dude, 5,000. I'm like, "Well, get up." I think there's some research that comes out that says productivity, a formula for productivity at your desk is every 50 minutes, you should be up for 10 minutes of activity. So chiefs out here that are stuck behind a desk, that's one way to get more steps in. And that's why I threw that goal in there. But with that.
Yeah, while we're just kind of wrapping up here, if she hasn't already done it, Kim will put, I think, two links in here. One will be just for a survey. We always appreciate feedback. We want to make sure that these programs are hitting the mark, and I'm very confident we are. There it is. She just dropped it in there. The second one is if you need a certificate or something for hours, she can drop that in there as well. And if I misspoke on any of that, Kim will obviously jump in and correct me, which won't be the first time she's had to do that.
Chief Waldo, I don't have the certificate link at my fingertips, but it will be in the thank you acknowledgement that we send out tomorrow. So they will have that in an email tomorrow. And I've put that link in a couple of times. Pay attention to the first time, disregard the initial S in that web link.
Perfect.
And we do encourage everyone to fill out the evaluation. It helps us tremendously. And our presenters always like to see what the comments are. And if you have suggestions at what you want to hear about, or have suggestions on someone that could present for us, please share them with us. Remember that everything is recorded on the Montana Fire Chiefs webpage. We've been doing it for the last 2 years. You can share them in your department, so don't forget about that. And I will mention to everybody that ZAM will be with us at the Fire Service Convention that we're hosting here in Missoula this coming October. That's the 9th to the 11th. So we look forward to meeting him in person. One more plug while I have your attention. We have an in-person training in Great Falls in the beginning of May. We're sending out invitations for that. It covers your hotel, all on-site beverages and food, your travel expenses. And so there's only limitations for 30. So when you see that invitation come up, if you'd like to join us, we'd love to host you.
What a great opportunity that is.
Yeah, right?
Great. Yeah.
And a really cool hotel in Great Falls. It's the Arvon Hotel. It's an historic venue. We're really excited to be there. And that's May 3rd and 4th. Just one night.
Well, you guys are doing days. You guys are doing some great things here. So appreciate you guys having me. And if anybody does have questions, if they go to firerescuefitness.com, or you guys could share my email, if I can help out with the department, if I can help with individuals, that's kind of what I've been passionate about doing. And that's what I love doing. So, thanks for letting me present. And I hope, again, people are taking advantage of that Resilient 50 and they're following the Healthy 10. And I think we'll change this whole culture that we talk about. And, 5 years from now, we'll have something else we need to work on.
Well, maybe when you come in October, we'll have some results for you. How about that?
That would be great. That would be awesome.
There you go.
I'm bringing some coins. So
okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank you, Chief Waldo. Thank you, Zam.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
All right. Good night.